Dear friends, we're here again with Dr. David Emerson. Thanks for this time for the interview.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
It's been really nice to be here. And we have some stories today that you're going to tell us.
Sure.
So go ahead. What are your best stories here?
Okay. Well, he asked about spiritual journeys. We did help start some people off. We have 3-day intensives here. We had a Baptist couple come for an intensive. And on the last day we had breakfast, I asked her, I said, now, you're Baptist, aren't you? She said, well, yes. I said, now, that's a Protestant denomination, isn't it? She says, well, yes. I said, do you know what you're protesting? And she looked at me and said, I never thought of it that way before. Would you like to know what you're protesting? She says, well, yeah, I'd like to see that. And so we showed her Light Unshackled. It's a DVD series put out, and it goes through the history of the Great Controversy. It takes you through Europe and gives you the history of how paganism invaded the Christian church early on, and then how we entered into this period of darkness, and then how you slowly came out with the Reformation and people going back to the Bible. And so she was excited about that. And so we gave them this, they saw the first series and they were excited and they said, I want to hear the rest of it. So we gave them the DVDs. So yeah, it does have a spiritual influence. In terms of lifestyle effects, hypertension is rampant out there. Age 18 and over, close to 50% of people have hypertension with the new diagnosis. It used to be 140/90 or above was hypertension. Now it's 130/80. They had to do that because when they found that when they lowered the rate, death rates, heart attack rates, stroke rates dropped significantly. With that definition, it's rampant. Well, we had a fellow in, this is actually when we were in Guam, who I was asked to see him because he came to our urgent care complaining of a headache. He was a VIP. He was the president of the University of Guam. So he actually, that was our first contact with him. Well, I should probably take you ahead a little bit. 2 weeks after we saw him, I got this call from the emergency room saying, there's a VIP up here, president of the University of Guam. He's in the emergency room and he wants to see you. And I thought, oh no. What has he done now? So I remember 2 weeks earlier is when I first saw him, came to the urgent care, complaining of a headache. They took his blood pressure, it was 220/120.
Oh.
And they asked me to see him, and I said, oh, sir, I said, I checked it out. I said, we really need, optimally to admit you to the hospital, get you on some medications, bring it down. He said, oh, no, don't do that. Is there something you can do here? I said, well, we can try it, but if it doesn't work, we got to get you to the hospital. So we ended up putting him on 3 different medications. We got his blood pressure down to something reasonable. And as I was starting to write his prescriptions, he goes, am I going to have to be on these the rest of my life? I said, well, that's up to you. He says, well, what do I have to do? He says, well, it'd be extreme measures. Vegan, oil-free diet, stop the smoking, stop the caffeine, stop the alcohol, start walking. And this would lower your stress. And when you get back to work, you function better and stress level will go down too. And I said, now, if you start feeling lightheaded, be sure to give us a call. When I got to see him at the ER, I get there in the ER. This is about 2 weeks later. And I get to hear the rest of the story. He did something so bizarre, so strange, rarely happens. He actually did what we asked him to do.
He obeyed.
He did. We're always surprised when that happens. He took a week off of work and made all these changes. He, total vegan diet, oil-free is optimal, stopped the caffeine, stopped the smoking, stopped the alcohol, started walking. And at the end of the week, when he returned back to work, he said his mind wasn't in a cloud anymore. And instead of putting out forest fires, he was preventing forest fires. So I said, so what do you think that did to his stress? Of course, the stress level goes down as well. In the middle of that second week, he was getting out of a chair and he felt a little lightheaded. And his wife said, well, call your doctor. He said, give him a call if you felt lightheaded. He said, I'm going to see him in 2 days. I'll talk to him then. Well, next day, getting out of the car, felt a little lightheaded. Call your doctor. You're going to you said to call if you felt lightheaded. He says, I'm going to see him tomorrow. I'll talk to him then. Well, that day was a special day. It was graduation day. So graduation day, he was at a big university, and all the faculty is there, all the students are there, all the parents are there, and the community is there. And as he passed out diplomas, he passed out.
Oh, man.
So ambulance comes, this big news on the little island of Guam. They take him to the emergency room, and that's when I see him, and I review his chart. I say, I have good news for you, and I have bad news for you. I said, well, what's the good news? I said, well, the good news is you made all those changes and your blood pressure came down to normal. Well, then what could possibly be the bad news? Well, the bad news is you're still on 3 blood pressure medicines and it dropped your blood pressure too low and you passed out.
Yeah.
So as long as he stayed on the program, he didn't have to take the medicines anymore. If he started straying from the program, his blood pressure would creep up, and I'd see him in follow-up, and I'd threaten him with another prescription. He said, no, I'll get back on the program.
Wow, cool. That's really nice.
But that's the bottom line. He's an extreme example, but essential hypertension does respond to this program. If they're on an ideal program like this for 2 weeks and their blood pressure doesn't drop, then you need to look for the secondary cause. They can have renal artery stenosis, they can have pheochromocytoma, they can have hyperaldosteronism. There's several things you start to look for, but that's only 5% of the people with hypertension is a secondary cause. 95% of it responds to this.
Hey, so when you have your, like here, that this is your house where you have the guests to come. It's just you and your wife, someone else?
Yeah, no, it's just me and my wife. We found that what I found is I like to spend time with patients because the real cure in my mind is patient education. Actually, Thomas Edison said this a long time ago. He says, the doctors of the future will do more patient education, and that would be the real cure for them. And to do that, we need more time, and to do that and still survive, we want to cut costs.
Yeah.
And so having a home office, you don't have to pay rent, having very little staff. Now what I'm finding with automatic blood pressure cuffs and electronic thermometers and pulse oximeters, I can do vital signs in like 1 or 2 minutes and can avoid that. Joel Fuhrman, another leader in lifestyle medicine, he did exactly that. He wanted to take more time with his patients. And so to do that, he takes his own vital signs. He's able to spend more time with the patients, which is what's required. If you are in a standard medical practice, you have 15 minutes for a follow-up. You barely have time to look at the chart and refill the prescriptions.
Yeah.
And that's it. And so
Yeah.
now the other option is if you're doing lifestyle approach to medicine, health talks in the evenings. You can give the information to a large group of people in our presentation, and you can have a broader audience and be more effective that way as well.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, because it's true, in traditional medical places, you go and you barely spend time actually with your patients. So it's really nice that you have that that passion to spend time with them, create a relationship, education. That's really nice.
Now we've had remarkable responses with diabetes as well, and that is another type 2 diabetes. It's also related to insulin resistance like hypertension is.
How many days do you get to lower or reverse diabetes?
Usually by the second week is when we see blood sugars can drop within a few days. So you have to really keep on top of it. And within a week, we see blood sugars dropping.
So by in a week, like they're with no insulin, or they just go lowering their dosage?
You lower their dosage and you follow them. It may take a week or two to get a more significant response. You have to be on top of it the first few days because you don't want them on their full dose of medications, change their diet, and blood sugars drop too low. You get the hypoglycemic, and usually we cut back on oral medications. You can even hold oral medications initially, and if they're on insulin, you would cut the insulin dose back, and you want to either instruct them how to lower their dose based on their fasting blood sugars, or do it yourself, have them report to you, by phone, something of that nature, so that you guard against that, because the blood sugars, they will drop. You want to be on top of that.
Cool. To close, we're going to close with a question, because it can be very interesting, because many friends, many people that sometimes I get to meet in different churches, they're like, oh yeah, I have a lot of very healthy lifestyle. I eat plant-based, and sometimes it's from all the 8 natural remedies, they just have the N.
Oh, I see. Yes.
Nutrition, and they think with that's it. That's the healthy lifestyle. But how important are all the 8? Is any that it's more important than others? It's like really nutrition the only one that we should take care, or how important is sunlight referred to that, or air, or exercise, or
exercise is
temperance,
probably as big or even more important than nutrition. Exercise seems to trump a lot of things. If you're exercising, can have people even on a poor diet. If they're exercising, it can help significantly. However, there was a controversy with Jim Fixx. He was a world-class runner, and he wrote a book, complete book of running, and he'd run marathons, and he'd run 1.5 times around the world, essentially, if you added up all his jogging times in his lifetime. And he wrote that you can eat whatever you want as long as you're exercising and you're a runner. You'll just burn it out. You'll burn the cholesterol out of your arteries. Well, Pritikin read his book and said, I beg to differ with you. The athletes die of heart attacks. You got to be on a plant-based oil-free diet. Well, he wrote the second edition, and in it he said, I've spoken with Pritikin, but he still held to his position. You could eat whatever you wanted. And shortly thereafter, he died of a massive heart attack on a 4-mile run. They did autopsy. It showed one of the arteries 99% closed, another 80%, another 70%. And when they looked at his heart muscle, when you clot off an artery, the muscle that's supplied dies, and then with time it'll form scar tissue. Well, he had scar tissue indicating throughout his heart, indicating many old heart attacks, but he also had some new, fresh heart attacks where the muscle had not turned to scar tissue yet in the previous weeks. And finally, his good physical condition helped him survive the heart attacks until one finally took his life. But he'd been getting heart attacks all along. So yeah, exercise is important. Sunlight for strength and endurance is important. Sun hits your cholesterol in your skin and can help turn it to testosterone, male sex hormone, which builds muscles. The Greeks understood the benefits of exercise, and to get the maximum benefit for the sun, they would exercise naked on the beach, where the sun would hit the sand and come up, reflect off, and hit their skin, also into the genital area, which was the most effective, and increase testosterone levels, which can increase strength and endurance. We're not currently recommending that.
Go naked running.
In the beach. But it did illustrate the benefits of sunlight. Water, very important for temperature control. They had one study where they had people on treadmill, walking, and without water, they found that within, I think it was an hour or so, their body temperature rose until their internal temperature rose to maybe core body temperature 101 or so. And at that point, they got exhausted. They had to stop. That was about an hour. Then they had them on a treadmill, walk until you're exhausted again. They could drink water ad lib, as according to what they wanted. And I think they went longer, maybe 2 hours before exhaustion. Oh. Then the third trial, every half hour or so, they would weigh them. And based on how much water they lost, as indicated on their weight loss, they would have to drink that amount of water to replace the water they lost, as indicated by the weight loss. And their body temperature stayed the same 8 hours. They were still walking at the end of 8 hours when they had to, go home for,
Oh,
for the
water,
break.
very important.
Yeah, water is important, and it
Now,
will help cleanse it.
what about rest? Because especially today,
Yeah.
people maybe they have a good diet, they do exercise,
Yeah.
but they're so overworked, and with today demands, they just want to do everything, and they go to bed late, they don't sleep well.
Yeah.
How is that at the end good? Does it counterattack the good that they're doing?
Yeah. In terms of performance, which is where guys are, they want to be able to perform. And the military is focused on performance. They took artillery group and they gave one group 7 hours of sleep a night, another group 6, 5, and 4 hours of sleep a night. Then they were to plot targets and shoot simulated shells to these targets during the day. And then they would count up how many shells they had on target each day. And then they watched them for, I think it was 21 days. And the group getting 7 hours of sleep, they got 300 shells on target. That was day one. That's 7 hours. Those getting 4 hours, they got not 300, they got 60 shells more on target because they were getting 4 hours of sleep. They had 3 extra hours to shoot. And so they got more shells on. That was day one.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Okay, now they continued this, and I think it was day 14 or day 21. By that time, those getting 7 hours of sleep a night, they were still getting 300 shells on target. Those getting 4 hours of sleep, 50 shells on target. It's like 17% of what it could have been if they'd been getting their sleep. The scary thing was when they interviewed the people getting 4 hours of sleep, at the end of this time, where they're only getting 50 shells on target, they said, "Hey, how's your performance? How are you doing?" They said, "Hey, we're doing great." They had no idea that their performance was abysmal, was so horrible. And we can be, they said our ancestors, they estimated, got 20% more sleep a night than we get today. Because when the sun went down, they went to sleep. When our sun goes down, we have so many fun things to do. Yeah, we can stay up to a long time. So we get less sleep. An hour and a half less sleep a night in that artillery group cut their performance by 50%.
Wow.
We have people that are chronically sleep deprived and have no idea that they're chronically sleep deprived, and they wonder, how come I can't get ahead in life? Am I just born not being able to be effective in performance? Why is everyone else getting ahead? And it may be something as simple as not getting enough sleep. One last story on sleep. England was getting bombed by the Germans. They were sending rockets over. My stepmother actually lived through it when she was in London. If you heard the engine running on a rocket, those V2 rockets, then you didn't have to take cover. It was going to go overhead somewhere else. But if you heard the engine go off, take cover, because then it was going to fall where you were.
Right there.
Yeah. So England was fighting back. They had to build bombers, and they would build bombers to go back and bomb Germany. And so the workers were working, 60, 70 hours a week. I mean, they were working like 10-hour days, 7 days a week. There were problems because there was a lot of errors in workmanship. Morale was down, a lot of absenteeism. People just wouldn't show up, and it just wasn't a good working situation. Yeah. So they said, okay, we're going to have to cut back from 10 hours a day. We're going to go 8 hours a day, 6 days a week. We're going to give them 1 day off a week as a break, which is very similar to Leviticus telling us to take 1 day off a week. Well, and we're just going to have to accept a decrease in productivity. Well, they did it, and sure enough, morale went up, errors in workmanship went down, absenteeism disappeared, but their production went up. I think it was around 17%
Wow, cool.
when they were working less, but they were working more efficiently.
Mm.
So, I remember this in residency. I thought, hey, then we were always trying to get ahead, stay up late, trying to get more hours of studying in so they could perform better. And when I read this, I realized, oh, no, it's our duty. We're actually going to do better if we are intentional about getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
We're actually going to perform better and get more done in the long run than if we
Yeah.
get less
You
sleep.
know, that's very interesting because in the world today, like everything is made for you just to not to sleep well. Even to you guys, like now that everyone that goes into residency for medical reasons,
Mhm.
like these guys sometimes they don't even get to sleep at night. And it's really sad because in a way they're the people that are supposed to promote health, and they themselves they're having
Yeah.
struggles because of the own methodologies of these schools.
Yeah.
But well, I'm not talking against any medical school whatsoever, just life in general here, because it's not just them but many others. Even me as an engineer while studying, sometimes it was like everyone is just staying asleep at night. I mean, sorry, staying awake at night, just finishing projects or whatever
Yeah.
things they need to do for deadlines. And yeah, I think that this world, when you don't have Jesus, things just go astray and then affects your health. And then you're like, why this is happening to me?
Ellen White actually mentioned that we should go to bed. I think she said around 9:30, and she said that it will take self-control in order to do it.
Mm.
That it would be a battle, and if it was a battle then, it's even more of a battle now.
Yeah, and because even sometimes today we go to bed, but we're still here in the bed, you know? And it's like, wow, it's
Yeah.
hard today. I think the enemy is very clever in putting everything there lined up for you to just not to have a proper health. Well, thank you. Thank you for the interview. Dear friends, the Eight Natural Remedies is one of the best things that you can put on your life, practice in your life. And well, you heard the stories. Like if God is calling you to start a ministry, maybe a lifestyle center, maybe with your talents, with your gifts, with what God has taught you, maybe you can teach others as well. You don't need to be specifically a physician, a doctor like David here. Uh, Anyone can just go and help others. There's many stories of others that can go help, and just teaching this natural remedies, people can start getting healthier, and also through all this process, they can get to know their Savior Jesus Christ. So, friends, if you want to know more about OCI, if you want to start a ministry, maybe you have one, you want to help it grow, we're here to help you. Links are going to be in the description below. Also, if you want to know more about Emerson Clinic, links are going to be in the description below as well, so you can know more about them. Maybe you can come here and visit.
Amen. We'd love to have you.
So, well, thanks, friends, for watching, and see you on the next one.